Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today, our introduction
worked.
But I'm seeing that the streaming is bad. Is that right?
I don't know.
Can you please give us a feedback if the stream is all right or not?
No, it comes. It works.
It works. So
There's always a bit of a delay.
Yeah. So, and today we invite you for a tasting of two distilleries, Glendronach and Benriach, and both of them are, well, they are relatives, they are twins.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't in former times, but today they're in the hand of the same company, and they both were brought out of mothballing, out of operation into production again by the same person, by Billy Walker. And well, the distilleries were bought and then brought back into operation. And perhaps you can give the first picture of the first distillery, Benriach. I show just this single picture in the moment after the tasting of the two Glendronach. We will move on with the Benriach pictures. Here you can see the kiln of Benriach, and in the left wrecked warehouse. In former times, when I visited the distillery last, it was in 1995, I think, there was the writing Queen Anne on it, and Queen Anne was a blended, or is a blended whiskey, where the Benriach distillery produced a lot of whiskies for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the next distillery, the next picture, is the Glendronach distillery, with which we will start just in a few seconds. And this one is located in the East Highlands. Benriach is located in the Speyside, and this is in the East Highlands, an hour drive from Aberdeen, or 3/4 of an hour drive from Aberdeen. And it resides in a glen and wonderful area. And we got a cask of that for our 25th anniversary, a cask from 1993, which we'll see in a later tasting. Yeah, we're looking at 4 whiskies today, 2 from Glendronach and 2 from Benriach. And well, I had to make a sequence, as always, in which sequence we will taste these whiskies. And I decided to have first the Glendronach, because one of the Benriach is a smoky one, and this one will disturb our tasting buds. So the Benriach Curiositas, 10 years of age, very smoky, is the last one. So even it's the youngest one, it's the last one. And therefore we start with Glendronach. And with Glendronach, of course, we can't taste the 21 years old, which is very, very intense and old, in front of the Glendronach 12 years of age. So the sequence is therefore quite given from the start. And I have to announce that we have news from Glendronach. There is the 15 years and 18 years of age missing in between, because they too came from the time when Glendronach was closed for quite some years. And now there are new supplies on the market, and it will appear real soon now on the market. So yeah, there will be the 15 and 18-year-old again, and then sometime the 21-year-old will cease. And so if you like this whiskey after the tasting, you should think about buying one and store it for the long time where there will be no 21 years old.
Yeah, there will be a time when the 21 years will not be available. But they said it's not going to be that bad, or they even said it's not going to happen with the 18 or the 21-year-old, because they have a good stock of older whiskey, and it's just going to get a bit of older. And then, because they don't have that much volume in selling such a high-priced bottle. So as you might have already noticed a bit from my voice, I'm a bit under the weather. So and also I just came back from the UK, from Scotland, yesterday. So it's going to be led by Horst today.
Yes.
So I'm just going to be a bit of the technical guy for all the pictures and that kind of stuff. So I'm a bit relaxed, a bit more laid back today.
So here, the first, Maximilian, same fund. He was there already 1.5 hours ago when we had the German take. He's from East London. And hello, working well, stream is great. Greetings from California, sunny California. You're not boozing at noon, aren't you? Love from India, very good. Rainy UK. The weather is awful.
Hello from Slovenia.
Argentina. South Africa. Peninsula of Michigan.
Is that like between the lakes?
I think so.
Yeah, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, so I think we have some
60 people
online,
on there.
60 online. This is not too bad because it's always that problem in Australia. It's already deep in the night or very early in the morning, 4 a.m. something.
Yeah.
And in California, it's noon. And here we have, in the evening. So there are a few here through there. So if you're missing these live tastings, please come again to the channel. You will find these videos then later on online, and you might then collect some miniatures or some bottles wherever you live and might have the tasting with us. And if you look at Whisky.com /live, there you will see the next whiskey live tasting coming up, so that you can go out and buy those bottles. The next one will be on November 22nd, and it's from Bowmore, or with Bowmore.
Yeah, a distillery tasting with one distillery. And so we have France, Sweden, New York City, Houston, Texas, Sweden, Scotland, Chicago. So cool guys. Hello there. Okay, let's just dive right in.
Yeah, Benriach, Glendronach was. Yeah, I skipped.
Do we have a tasting, or do we have pictures again?
No, I missed to talk a lot during the first pictures.
Okay, then so let's go back to the first pictures
Benriach,
then.
Yeah. So, Benriach was reintroduced to the market as a single malt whiskey distillery by Billy Walker in 2004. He founded the Benriach Distilling Company, and 2 South African partners, they invested with him. I met them at the ceremony at the Keepers of the Quaich. Just the day before they sold then the Benriach and the Glendronach distillery to Brown-Forman, which are now the company behind the distillery. And they stayed to that, what Billy Walker did in the portfolio and in the procedures and the processes and production. So he brought the distillery to flying, and then a big company took over and now has the money to move forward and spread those whiskies all over the world. They bought the Benriach distillery from the former possessors. I think they were from Trinidad, Tobago. CL Financial, I think they bought that distillery. And they got stocks dating back to 1966. So there were old stocks with Benriach. And most of them were refill casks because of the blended whiskey industry they provided most of the whiskey for, and therefore they had to do special cask treatment. And here we also have special casks used for maturation, for finishing those matured whiskies. So we will move to that later on. Benriach was Distillery of the Year in 2007 and 2009. So now to Glendronach, and this was bought later by the conglomerate with Billy Walker in 2008, when they were quite into the job with Benriach and everything was fine. Then they bought the next one, and they bought it from Chivas Brothers. So they were, I think in former times, they were with Allied, Glendronach with Allied Distillers, which were then split and bought by others, and the Chivers and Glenlivet group, they de-invested from their not so major brands, and Glendronach was, well, they had an old 12-year-old, which was only 40% of ABV, and an 18-year-old, which was extremely expensive and very rare, and that was all they provided. And today they have a full range. They start with an 8-year-old, so they are one of the very few distilleries daring to write a single-digit age on a whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So very good. So this is it for the introduction, and now we're coming to the first whiskey, to the Glendronach 12 years of age. This is a single malt matured in sherry casks, and not only just sherry casks, but Oloroso sherry casks, as well as Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. What's the difference? Oloroso sherry casks, Oloroso sherry is matured, is fully fermented, so that there's no residual sugar in the wine, and the Pedro Jimenez sherry wine is stopped with a high residual sugar and then fortified with brandy from the same grapes, so that is sweeter. And here we have now a whiskey matured also in sweeter Pedro Jimenez sherry casks.
Pedro Jimenez.
Peter Siemens. We had that joke last time as well, haven't we?
If you say Pedro Jimenez Peter Siemens in the Spanish accent, you have Pedro Jimenez.
Pedro means Peter.
Pedro Jimenez.
And this family has nothing to do. Had nothing to do with the Siemens electric company. No, it was
Nothing.
It was 18th century.
I think he was a
Right
doctor
before.
soldier again. Always the doctor soldiers were always like, yeah, let's go for the booze somewhere. All of them. You have the Angostura guy. We have there are so many doctors in the army that were like, let's make some booze.
I have a PhD as well.
Should make some booze.
Yeah. So this is 43% ABV. They have 3% less than typical better whiskies, but they have 3 more than the whiskey before. And the 21-year-old has then 48%, and the one between 15 and 18 years old, 46 or 48, 46 I think, not quite sure. So this one is lighter in alcohol, but sherry, sweet, welcoming, showing a little fruitiness, fresher fruitiness from the distillery, but a lot of the sherry casks, the oxidized fruits, creamy, little spicy.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of oxidized fruit, and it's one of these lovely, lovely Speyside sherry bombs. It's nice. The thing is, it's also a bit round, but I'm not qualified to say that much.
It's creamy as well, and somebody says, "Power's gold." Oh, that's the one.
Yeah,
one.
Ben needs a whiskey right now. Already had 4. Okay, so there are 2 guys who missed the German live stream, so feel free to write in the chat what you smell. But there's a bit of more delay than in the German one. I don't know. I got half a minute delay now.
Half a minute.
Mm.
Ooh. Do you know the ratio of PX to Oloroso sherry cask? No, I don't.
I think they keep it secret.
Mm-hmm. But I would say it's not 50-50. It's less Pedro Jimenez than Oloroso.
Sherry fruits creamy, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Strong for 43%.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, mouth-filling, and showing immediately spiciness from the casks, but as well as creaminess on my tongue. The alcohol is very faint, showing already oak. So it's not just a finishing process, but the sherry cask will be, or some sherry cask will be in for a longer time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The taste is more mature than the nose. The nose had a bit more fruitiness. The taste has a bit more dried fruitiness, also very creamy, and also a little bit of that, a little bit oak note, a little bit of that chocolate note already as well.
Yeah, and I do have nuts.
Nuts, yeah.
Walnuts, hazelnuts, the typical nuttiness from sherry casks. Yeah. Wonderful dram. We could stop here, finish the bottle, everything's all right. So, really a good one.
We had a question in the German one. Is it a beginner's one? Can you give that to a beginner?
Half yes, half no. It's a little spicy in the taste and the aftertaste.
Spicy, deep, strong. It's pretty strong, I would say. There's a lot of deep notes, and the aftertaste is just phenomenal, I would say, for a 12-year-old. But it's what I love about it. It's very much on the sherry side, so it's really a sherry bomb, but it doesn't have that fluffy feeling that you get sometimes.
AMGC 1978. What are generic characteristics you look for in 12-year-old maturation? How does that change with cask maturation? How is distillery character determined? Well, I know what the typical tastes from casks are, and I'm looking for that. Some spiciness, probably some bitterness, and the other ones have to come, caramel and vanilla and a lot more, and the others have to come from the distillery. So the lighter, fresh, fruity notes typically come from the distillery.
Distillery character, I would say, is determined with the raw spirit. If you have a 0-year-old, then you have the distillery character.
Yeah.
But
it changed with the maturation.
It changed with
Subtractive,
yeah, we actually have someone who actually has in the glass. I know that. Oliver Scheuch, strawberries and nuts. Definitely strawberries and nuts.
So here are two sentences about the pricing. One is G-Man. Did you guys hear about the new Trump tariffs on Scotch whiskey to the UA importers? Well, I know about the tariff the EU gave to the bourbon industry, 25%. It was hefty.
I've just been to Scotland and I've talked to the guys, and yes, there is a tariff. There will be a tariff on Scotch whiskey. I'm not quite sure if it's already defined how high it is, but it's the one with it's a retaliation, and I think that's just really bad because
retaliation, and
no,
so
this time was about the Airbus and the Boeing again.
Yeah.
So why is the retaliation for Scotch whiskey when the problem was with Boeing? Why or with Airbus? Why?
I hit you wherever I can.
Yeah, but the Scotch guys did nothing wrong.
Yeah, but if Brexit succeeded in, they have a new contract. How it's said, new
trade deal.
Trade deal with the US, which will be possible to sign after the Brexit is there, and then the tariffs will go away.
So it's only.
But therefore, we will here in Germany probably get a tariff on Scotch. If
maybe.
our industry is blockheaded, yeah.
It's just everything is in a turmoil right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
Buy as long as you can.
Buy much Scotch whiskey. One clear different direction.
So the next one was a question about Mike Eketian. I've noticed a steep rise in price for the core ranges over the past 4 years. I have a 15 and 18-year-old unopened and notice that and notice they both doubled in price. Will this rise continue, I wonder? The distillery has been closed from 1996 to 2002. And the 15-year-old and the 18-year-old is now from a time where the distillery was closed. The 15-year-old is just after that coming out now. They appear on the market again, and there were some gaps in the supply or in the warehouses, which they said they have now overcome, and therefore the prices rose very steep because it's the demand, which is and the offer and demand. So this brings the prices up, but they will come down again as soon as the supply and the market kicks in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
Two guys talking about if Trump is a vodka type guy. He's not. I've read his book. Fred Trump, his father had 2 sons or 3 sons, and I think his older brother, or was it his younger brother? One of his brothers. He lost one of his brothers to alcohol. I'm not quite sure if he was killed himself or he lost him to alcohol. So he's a dry guy. He doesn't touch any alcohol.
Okay.
So not good for us.
so it's quite easy to have 25% tariffs on it.
He doesn't have a problem with it.
It's different to John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy, the bold American president, he bought tons of cohibas of cigars before he had the cut on Cuba. What a friendly guy. He was so famous and did his own deal. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just continue.
Okay. So here is the distillery from the Glendronach distillery from top. You see on the left-hand side the chimney with a black top, and in front of that is the still house, quite a big new block in which the stills we will see soon are lined up with big windows to the yard, and around that are the dunnage warehouses, and across the street to the right there are some wrecked warehouses, so the capacity of the distillery is medium. It's not that big, but it's medium, and as long as they do not provide whiskey in those real amounts to the blended whiskey industry, this is quite a good warehouse or good storage for the distillery for malt whiskies. And we were able to get a cask from 1993 from the warehouse where the red truck is in front, in warehouse number 1, and there were a lot of old sherry casks maturing in there. It was wonderful. Yeah, the production capacity is 1.4 million liters per year, and until 1996 they had their own malting floors. If you please switch over to the maltings. And this picture I did in 1995, and there was nobody in the distillery, just the malting floor was prepared in this wonderful way. So it was a guy with a sense for geometry and a wonderful made. There was a shovel there in front, a small shovel. You can took out and feel the moisture and the heat in there. The windows were open to the yard and the sun was shining in. So it was a wonderful, and we have this picture since 1995 or 1994, I think, everywhere on our website. Go to Whisky.com, look for the Glendronach distillery. There's not only the video you took last year, the year before, but as well those old pictures.
Yeah. There are also a bit of articles about malting on there, and there's always that picture.
Yeah.
It's just that picture is just phenomenal.
Today, they do no longer have malting floors, but they buy their malts from the industrial sources everybody buys from. Mm-hmm. This is the mash tun, and this is a classical old Victorian mash tun from cast iron segments, which are bolted together because you're not able to weld that cast iron. And they got a copper lid later on to prevent energy, the heating from rising from the mash in there. And this is not a lauter tun, not a semi-lauter tun. It's just a classical way to suck out the sugary liquid from the mash tun. They have 3 sets of water they fill in to get the sugars out, and they going up to 94 degrees centigrade, so 200 Fahrenheit something. So it's quite hot. These are the wash bags. They are old wooden ones, and you can see the red motors on top with which a blade is rotating in the wash bags to cut down the foam which the fermentation of the wash brings up. And this is from Oregon pine.
Oh yeah, Oregon pine. It's the name for all of you guys from America. But I'm not quite sure if Oregon pine just comes from Oregon. A lot of that Oregon pine comes from Oregon because there's a lot of trees in Oregon. And for all of you from Great Britain, it's called Douglas fir.
Yeah. So there are 9 wash bags there with each 18,000 liters. So that they are not the biggest one, but they are not that small. And the next picture shows one of those wash bags on the inside. You can see the blade on the top for cutting down the foam. This maturation or fermentation has already finished. So this is ready for pumping either into a receiver or in the wash stills. The fermentation time at Glendronach is not that long, but not that short. It's 60 hours, and the wash finally has 7.5 to 8% ABV. So now I'm thirsty. Time for the next dram, and this time it's Glendronach.
Oh, that's a expensive one, right?
Yeah. So seeing
but
this,
for a 21-year-old, it's about 30 euros, which is like, I don't know, $110, or is it more?
No. And this one had been lower than 40. So this is 130. And I forgot, I'm sorry. Here, James Allardyce, the founder of the company, 1780 till 1849. He was inventor, pioneer, entrepreneur, founder of the Glendronach distillery. And here they omitted a talk, a few sentences, which were on the tube in former times. They said James Allardyce was one of the direct selling entrepreneurs who brought the whiskey into Aberdeen, and they sold it there to the bars, and not every bar, but the bars in the red light districts. So good whiskey there, and it was told that he sometimes was paid in natural.
In natural.
So with all these PC going on,
no silicon there, no natural.
So with all those political correctness going on, this small funny story was deleted from the
you
back.
realize that the background of the Glendronach distillery is a bit funnier. This is the Parliament, right?
This is the Parliament.
The Parliament is Parliament plays on 2 words. The Parliament in 10 Downing Street, also the
Not 10 Downing Street, Westminster.
Westminster.
Downing Street is the Prime Minister,
okay.
and the House of Commons is in Westminster.
Westminster, then whatever.
Yeah.
So the Parliament, well, because they're always and Parliament is also a bunch of crows.
Yes,
yeah.
And those crows, they are sitting around the
I think
distillery
it's
in those
only-
old trees.
It's only when they sit in a tree, then you call it a parliament.
Yes.
Otherwise, you call it a murder of crows.
And they are quack, 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 quack. And do you know why they are doing that? They are looking for the right place. Nobody likes to be shit on. So it's like a parliament, like in reality. Look at Westminster in the moment. What's going on there? Yeah, so this is the parliament.
Yeah, they're a bunch of crows. That's politics.
Oh, this is better than politics, definitely. Where I heard of that the members of parliament had their own bar at the House of Commons in Westminster, in this old building from 17th century. And then they stopped it and sold it. and they had a fortune in that. So this was the cream of the cream we were able to get. Yeah, so this is a mixture of very ripe fruits, sweet sherry, a little spiciness, and some cookies. Yeah.
I do love that Parliament always reminds me of Christmas.
Yeah.
Always reminds me of Christmas. You have that, these raisins and all of that. What was it? Yeah, you have oranges, peeled oranges, bitter oranges, like, and it's more of a zesty orange that you would put orange peel on the heating, and a bit of these what do you call it? These cloves. So that's remind me of these old traditional Christmas.
Yeah, it's just 60 days until Christmas Eve. So think about buying gifts. This one is definitely a buy. And it's
a bit expensive, but yeah, you have to have a good friend for that.
Weather is turning cold already, so it's time for a dram in the evening. It's a bit early this year, turning cold. Yeah, so it's a wonderful... Yeah, I'm talking too much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Boah. So this is mouth-filling, wonderful. It's 48% ABV, just more. It's uncolored. Have a look at that wonderful, dark mahogany, lightly reddish color from the whiskey, from the wine, from the sherry wine. Wonderful. There is light chocolate, not bitterness, dark chocolate showing up. So this is 21 years of age maturation. You can't hide that, and gives you a wonderful cladding in your mouth. The sharpness or the spiciness of the oak vanishes fast. Now you have a wonderful, complex, full mouthful.
I love it. It has 48%, so it's really intense in terms of flavor, but it's also very, very smooth. It's really creamy. I think that's one of the characteristics that it shares with the 12. Otherwise, it's really different from the 12. Usually would think kind of similar maturation, but these, what is it? How many years? 9 years older makes it a whole lot of a different whiskey.
Yeah.
A whole lot of a different whiskey.
So I wouldn't have said that this is from the same distillery. So it's so completely mature and different.
Yeah, but it's 21 years and these very good casks, I would say it's there's not that much of the distillery character left. There is a bit of a distillery character, but it's just a very good maturation.
It's complex. It's not over matured like a lot of old whiskies are, which show a too big influence of the oak cask.
In terms of maturation, it's deep, it's heavy, so you have tons of maturation, but you don't have that fluffy feeling in your mouth that doesn't go away, and that's the epitome of what do you call it? Of over maturation.
Yeah.
Lebkuchen. Yeah, gingerbread. Yeah, definitely. You have these spices that you have in gingerbread, and that's what also reminds me of Christmas.
Now there are many bars in Parliament. Too many bars.
Bars? What bars? There are bars in Westminster? I've just watched. I've been to Scotland and I've watched the Brexit debate, and I was just amazed how strange the British Parliament is. This guy seriously did. Where are we at the bar?
They are one of the oldest parliament. So
I think,
fighting against each other in parliament without hitting with shoes and knives.
Sometimes
and
with
shooting.
shoes.
It's better than well, we're all going straight. Very good.
No, just the time of voice that they have is just strange.
So hello from Israel. Greetings from Zanzibar. Very good.
And one guy from Hong Kong.
From Hong Kong, yeah.
Nice.
You're
still there? Okay.
So there's questions about other distilleries. Sorry, no, not in this one. I love the Glendronach 18. Rich, nutty, sweet, not bitter, mature, great aroma compared to the 21. The 18 is really great value for money. Yes, but the 18-year-old grew more expensive as well. It rose very, very much in price. And sometimes you're not lucky to get one. So the 15-year of age is very extreme, intense. The 18-year is much smoother and more like this one. But the 21-year-old is much more mature, much more intense than the 18-year-old. So the 18-year-old is the smoothest of all the range from the Glendronachs. Yeah, I think we're through with this. And here we have those wonderful stills of the Glendronach distillery. On the left-hand side are the windows, light shining in, and you see those reflux bowls. So the top, the line arm, goes a little bit downward, bends a little bit downward. So everything what's going over the top will reach the condensers, but the reflux bowls will cool the vapors there and have some, well, condensation and reflux into the pot. And this will rise up again, and this multiple contact with the copper of the inside of the pot still will lead to catalytic conversions to better quality of spirits. But when it finally gets over the top, then it's immediately flowing through the condensers to the receivers. And they have 4 pot stills, 2 wash and 2 spirit stills. So the wash stills are the first and the last one. The spirit stills are smaller in the middle. And the wash stills have 9,000 liters each, and the wash bags have 18,000 liters each. So one wash bag goes for 2 stills, and the spirit stills have 5,500 liters each. They are stilling quite fast, just 6 hours in both of them.
I think they used to be with coal-fired, right?
I think so, yes.
Yes, they were one of the last ones who had coal fires. That's probably what they didn't want to go so far from the style they made, because if you have a coal fire, you tend to go fast. So that's probably why they went so fast with their distillation. And when you have a fast distillation, you get a bit of a oily whiskey, creaminess here, and you get a bit more spiciness. So that's where the Christmas spices come from. Yeah. Also from cask, but...
there is a video on Whisky.com of the inside of the Glendronach distillery, and I think I took some pictures with the thermal cam, so that you can see the thermal distribution in the still, where the hot spots are, where it's cooler. So it was quite funny looking at that.
Yeah, I used to have a mobile phone with a
flare in it.
With a flare in it, or was a Caterpillar, and it didn't show that much of a difference between the stills. So
but you could see between the stills not, but in the still and the line arm, you were able to see
distribution. So I wanted to see how hot different the stills are, but they are pretty much the same.
Yeah. The next one, please. This is our cask we bought from them exclusively for our 25th anniversary. This was wonderful. It was sold so fast, and the bottle was so expensive. So this was, I think, wasn't it a $50,000 cask? It was extremely, yeah. So they use 85% sherry casks at Glendronach. So there are some ex-bourbon casks for the younger ones there, and a lot of them is pigs, but how many they do not tell.
So do you see a bit of parliament there flying about at the top of in the middle?
They're not talking during flying. They talk if they sit. Here you see those dunnage warehouses, the old ones. And in former times it was law to paint the doors in red, so you could see where the openings were and look for thieves and so on. Burglars.
To know that.
Bootleggers, whatever.
There's still a lot of distilleries with red doors.
Yeah, and there are 3 erect warehouses, as I said, on the other side of the street. And this is the inside of one of those dunnage warehouses. You can see the main aisles are already concrete, that you can roll the cask very easily. And then where the casks mature for those years, there's just some gravel on the ground, so that there is a contact with the wet soil below, and the humidity is high. So this is the reason for that makeup of the warehouse. Yeah. So next one.
Oh, do we still go on? Yeah. We don't have the Benriach before we have a look at.
Yeah, so this is the Benriach distillery, where we've seen the picture from the street. And you can see the chimney with the black top from the power plant. On the left-hand side, the kiln from the drying. And behind the kiln are 2 floors for the maltings. On the right-hand side are the warehouses. So this is a pretty small, wonderful distillery. It was founded 1898 by John Duff. And you know what Duff means?
Nope.
Nope, Duff means... So Dufftown is the town of booze.
I think they shouldn't have renamed the town. Maybe should have stick with the old name.
It was the time of Victorianism and starting prohibition and so on, yeah.
But the guys in that town probably didn't want to be called Drug Town.
Yeah, so Benriach changed proprietors quite often in the past. And in 2004, Billy Walker bought it together with a South African couple. And then he brought the distillery up for a long 12 years, changed processes, made everything right, and now they're in the hand of Brown-Forman, and they are able to roll it out and supply all the money for bigger stocks and having it working and spreading all over the world. And they are producing peated and non-peated whiskey. So here the Benriach Curiositas, 10 years of age, is peated, and the 12-year-old cherry maturation is not peated. So there are, I think, 3 levels of peatiness, non-peated, medium peated, and high peated. And Benriach was, as I said, a distillery for the blended whiskey industry, and therefore had a lot of ex-bourbon casks refill, and so they had to change things. So they concentrate on finishing. So there are better casks out there for finishing those subtractive matured whiskies, and now have the additive maturation with the finishing casks. Yeah, next one, please. Here we have the Benriach. One of those Benriach casks is Marsala cask. You can see this is a fresh one. So it was freshly introduced in Italy, in Sicily, where the Marsala comes from. And then after 1 season, it was transferred to Benriach, so that they're able to store their whiskey on. Yeah.
Yeah, Benriach has a lot of cask variation. So they have a lot of different casks there. And the beauty about Benriach is that they do have a lot of stuff there, because they're not just producing for their single malt, but also for other blends and out of Scotland whiskies. So they have they can just transfer the casks they don't want and have really good casks in there.
So they produce 3 million liters of pure alcohol, and since 2012, they're producing malt themselves again.
Mm-hmm. So, but
Yeah, and now there's this is on top, and then we have
okay,
the tasting.
good.
So I got the script written from one of our ladies.
So the Benriach, first we're gonna have the 12, which is non-peated, and then we're gonna have the peated.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you have the peat in your mouth, then you're finished.
Are the Benriachs blended by Rachel Berry? I'm not sure, but I don't think so.
They moved, but I don't know where.
She used to do that, I think, didn't she?
Or moved.
No, she was somewhere else.
Yeah.
You have to look it up. Sorry, we can't have that on top of
Google
my...
is your friend.
Sorry.
So this 12-year-old is matured in a 3-way sherry maturation.
So 3 different sherries, like Oloroso, Benriach Curiositas,
Nope.
Marzanilla, or Fino?
Nope. They have old refill sherry casks.
Okay.
And Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso.
Oloroso, Pedro Jimenez, and refill of the same. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this
3-way.
This is important because this gives more of the cask character, not so much the fruit component of the wine. This is gone after the first maturation, but then the older ones, they give just the oak to the whiskey. Non-chill filtered, natural color. This one is a little bit more expensive, is just below 50. It's 46% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural color, as all the whiskeys here. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's one thing that, what was his name? Billy Walker. He's a great guy with natural color, unchill filtered, and a bit more ABV.
Yeah. So I sat with him together at Blair Castle with the keepers of the Quaich in thronization, and I sit with him on the table, and there was this South African couple there. It was in early 2016, and the South African couple was there in Scotland to just finish the deal with Brown-Forman.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't say that then. It was just the day or the day after where they closed that deal. So fruity, a lot fresh, fruity notes, much more of those fruity notes than the Glendronach 12 years of age had. So there are lighter fruits, pears, apricot, probably some mandarin, tangerine, some cherries. Yeah, wonderful fruity. Then the sherry, a little bit older sherry coming after that. Some darker fruits, resins. Yeah.
It does have a lot of dried fruit as well, but if you compare it to the Glendronach, it's very fresh. I would say now I have a bit more clean slate than I had before in the German take. In the German take, I found it very fresh with a lot of apple, a lot of pears and all that kind of stuff. But now I do find more of the green apple, a bit of berries, that sherry aroma, a bit of grapey notes. So now it's a bit more of a sherry whiskey than I had it before.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
So it really hits you. It's intense, it's spicy, full, and showing some dark chocolate. Yeah. Oakiness. This tangerine note is again there. A lot of fruitiness, but turning darker. And the 46% ABV showing through, hitting right on your tongue. So this is complex. This is wonderful. Really.
Although it has 46% ABV, it's pretty round. But I do think it's a bit fresher. Some people even say it has a slight alcoholic note. For me, that's still one of these fresh, fruity notes. I wouldn't say alcoholic note.
No, not
but
alcoholic.
It's a fresh one.
Yeah, but
with
then in the aftertaste, in the aftertaste, you're getting some nutmeg. You're getting
here comes the oak, but it's not as sherry sided as the Glendronach. It's a I wouldn't call it a sherry bomb. I would call it a sherry sided whiskey. It's not this typical sherry bomb.
Yeah. So both of them are not colored. This one, the Benriach, is a little bit darker than the Glendronach, but the Glendronach has the typical 80 or 85 millimeter bottle, and this one is 5 millimeters more in diameter. So this is darker because the bottle is thicker. So I would say from the color they are quite identical. So, but here I think we have less sherry influence from the fresh cask and more from the refill casks. So there's more of this oaky spiciness, and the distillery itself, the distillery character, is a lot more fruity than the Glendronach. So I wonder how the stills look like. Well, I now know it because the live stream just an hour ago. But the stills look different, and that would lead to a different spirit.
I like it. It's nice.
There were questions how the old sherry cask was the new one. I think the old sherry cask was not less in quality, but different. It was more on the sherry side and less on the oaky side. So this was the difference. It got more intense and more power.
So the last one, the old one, was made of a sherry bomb.
It was more like the Glendronach was. It was smoother, and this is more edgy. O'Shea. I really want to meet you and want to know how I became Master Taster. Well, I became Master Taster because I gave me that title. Master Taster is no.
I think you have to have tasted 1,000 whiskies before you can call yourself Master Taster.
Yes, so you're close behind, but you're still apprentice.
No, we stay apprentice. No, if you meet us, I've been to a whiskey fair in Berlin, and 5 people recognized me, and I've been to Scotland now. Only one person has recognized. Okay, it was kind of autumn and fall, so not many people there. But if you see us, you can approach us. We're not like unapproachable. I talk to fans if they approach me.
So I was early this year. I was in Australia, and people recognize me. So I like that very much.
Yeah. If you're not like
so you say, hey, hello.
Then it's cool. You just have a chat with people.
Yeah,
it's nice.
That's okay.
It's cool. It's always like, Mr. Luening. Damn it, I forgot the name of that guy. And I'm like, I know you from your videos.
Maybe have a selfie with you.
Yeah, but I always think that I should know this person, but you don't. They have watched me, but I haven't watched them at all.
Yeah. So this is it, and now we're moving forward. This is the malting floor of Benriach, and they just use it 2 weeks in a year. So it was refurbished in 1995, and they closed then in 1996. So it was ready, it was okay, and they were able to use it. But when they started, they do not have the money and the capacity to have it working in parallel, so they waited with the production with that until a few years passed, and today they just have a few weeks in the year. And you said in the back of that are the steepings for the fresh corn, barley coming in.
So yeah, I've been to that. I think I've taken that picture. If you ever, I'm not quite sure how they do with the tours, But I do think they do the tours. I'm not quite sure. If you go there, you should go to the end of that room, because at the end of that room there's these steeping tanks. And they put the grain in, or they put the grain in, and the grain gets soaked up with water.
It takes more than 24 hours.
Yeah, like 1 day or something like that. And then they spread it out, and then it starts to germinate. And if you turn back from that view, then you get into the old kiln, and the old kiln is just very, very scenic. That room is just very, very scenic, because it's all the old equipment and it's old stones.
And I took pictures. You might find them on Whisky.com at the whisky database and the Benriach distillery. There you could see there was a pile of coal, of anthracitic coal, for just making hot fire, not with peat in it. So it was then working, but it was closed just a year after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so next picture. This is a mash tun, or the mash tun, 25,000 liters, quite big, and it's made completely from stainless steel. This is a lauter or a semi-lauter tun, just the opposite of the Glendronach, because this one is new and produced a lot of whiskey for the blended whiskey industry. And in the back you can see those, the injector for the barley and the water. Coming in front is the opening for looking at the
inside.
The wash. There are 4 mashing runs, and the third and the fourth, which gives just a little bit of residual sugars, are used for the first and the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So 4, I think 4 is more logical than 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends how much energy you want to spend and how much yield you want to get out of that.
Yeah. So this is the room with the wash bags, and here we have 8 wash bags, 2 in the back of us, and each has 33,000 liters, and the fermentation time is really long, with 100 hours. So this is really long, extremely long, and this should give this fruitiness we recognized. So because you have the first fermentation, which gives you just fast alcohol in just a few days. And after that, then there's the, how do you say it,
lactobacterial fermentation. Yeah, that's this one from sauerkraut or yogurt. So, and that makes it actually pretty fruity and a bit sour.
Yeah, so the mash turns already sour. This is the reason why the bourbon people have this sour mash process. So the yeast working really good in a pH low environment. Yeah. Now we have the stills, and they look different to the Glendronach ones. The reflux bowl is missing, and the line arm just fells like the Glendronach does. And here you have the 2 wash stills in the back. You can see the last one with a window, and the first 2 ones are the spirit stills, and the spirit stills typically had black surroundings around the manholes, and the wash bags had a different color.
They used to have blue and
red.
And red.
Red was
I think there is still blue there. It's just very dark at the very front. But they've gone away from that. There are some people who have reused other wash stills as spirit stills, or spirit stills as wash stills. So it's now a mixture, and some of them have painted them black. So it's not a clear sign of a wash still or a spirit still.
I think this was a very old relic from, sorry about that, dumb tech collectors, which weren't able to decide which one was a spirit still and which one was the wash still. No, that's not right. I apologize. 2 wash stills capacity with 16,500 liters. So 1 wash bag covers 2 wash stills, and 2 spirit stills with a capacity of 9,500. And they also produce quite fast with 6 hours. And the alcohol is 24 to 25% after the wash still, and 71% in average after the spirit still. This is a dunnage warehouse at the Benriach distillery, quite similar to Glendronach. We have this concrete eisel in the middle, and the dump floor on the side of that. Yeah, there are 9 dunnage warehouses and 3 wrecked warehouses. And yeah, that's it. And now we're going to the tasting of the last one. And this is really a different one. This is peated. And it's Curiositas. There had been several whiskies with different ages of Benriach out there, and they all were called Curiositas for the peatiness. And smoked with Highland peat, then 3 casks matured in ex-bourbon, toasted virgin oak, so fresh oak, and rum casks. 46% ABV. And the peat is said to have a quite high wood content. So it's not only these dyed herbs, krauts, whatever, but it's also wood which decayed in the peat.
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah, peatiness.
So they have 3 types of peatiness at Benriach. It's non-peated, medium peated, and heavily peated. So do we know which one it is?
Have a sniff.
Heavily.
Peated. So this is quite the amount Islay has. It takes quite a time to get rid of that smoke and smelling something behind. But the smoke is not that medicinal, not that phenolic. It's a better smoke. It's a bonfire. Well, there is some medicinal notes in it, yeah, but it's not that unfriendly, not that... Well, I do not like those very, very intense smokiness, smoked whiskies. So behind that now, there is some bloomy, fruity heather note in the back. Yeah.
It's tough to get through that smoke. You do have... This is a really smoky whiskey. Some whiskeys are smoky, but not on the nose. But this one is. This one has a lot of smoke in there. And it's tough to get through there for me. I do smell there's a bit behind that, but something light. Something light.
Yeah, they were discussing some prices. So the Benriach 10 years of age is in the mid-30s. So it's cheaper than a Glendronach 12 years of age. Even that is smoky, which typically means it's more expensive today. Yeah.
Cheers.
That hits, but it's quite a good balance between the 46% ABV, the smokiness, and the intense casks, where the fresh casks really shine through. And I'm not able to taste those rum casks. I typically do not like rum. Rum is not the spirit for me. So this is well balanced, quite good, aromatic, and in the aftertaste, there's the oakiness, well, balancing very good with the smoke.
I do like it. It's a very round whiskey for a smoky one. It's you have a good amount of sweetness, good amount of vanilla, okay, virgin oak casks, and good amount of oak, and of course, first and foremost, it's smoky. There's one guy who said I will be 100% cured after that, I think.
And more down there, David Owen, Ben needs a hot toddy.
Yeah, I need a hot toddy, yeah.
No, never. If you're ill, alcohol is not good for you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I've just proven that with the last 10 videos I just did. No, so I think we're pretty much through. There's a bit of announcement on the 22nd of November, we're going to have a look at Bowmore and probably 3 or 4 Bowmores. I just came back from Scotland, so I'm not quite into to know what we're going to do there, but I'll probably have to work myself in there.
Yeah, have a look at Whisky.com/live.
Mhm.
There will be the introduction to that, and we have to make a sequence here, which is the best one.
Yeah. And just a
Probably
little bit of
give-
advertisement over the next weeks. I think we'll give it us 1 or 2 weeks time for the first one to edit. There will be distillery videos again, so watch out for these Saturdays because we're gonna air them on Saturdays.
Yeah. So which one is the best? Which one do not like? So, all are good. So they are wonderful.
Depends on if you go with absolute or relative to price.
Price value.
I think we'll go absolute. So I have a clear winner for
Yeah,
absolute.
Everyone will have. So it's the 21
Yeah,
years.
21 is the best one.
Yeah. So,
Then I'll go with the Glendronach.
no, I'm not.
And then I go with 12 and then 10.
Yeah. So this is the first for me. Then I have the 12-year-old Benriach, and those two are on the third level because they are not comparable from my point of view. This
Definitely.
is sherry cask. This is peated. So they are but they are cheap. They are in the mid to low 30s, those two, and therefore they are wonderful whiskies for that price. This is 120 or 130. This is close to 50. So in this case, I am going with the price.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just love the intensity that we had, that intense sherry character that didn't hit you with these tannins and with that fluffy feeling. So what did you like? Everybody who had it, what was your ranking?
Will Horst have a dram of his special black Bowmore? I think not.
It will be a bit, nasty if you'd go, I have a 40-year-old. You don't.
That's a 42. Yeah. 21, 12, 10, and the other 12. So it's
Pretty similar to mine.
the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to
That's the guy
I have
who
some
you
changes
just
to make
read.
compared to the first tasting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we are 30 seconds behind. We have to give them a few seconds.
A few seconds to
to give
what
their
they say.
comments. Yeah.
Yeah, the next videos that I'm gonna air out are from the space side. So there is a lot of things going on with a lot of mild whiskies, and there's a lot of stuff that I've reviewed that I found a lot about the character of a whiskey, with that depends a lot on the condensers. So there's a lot about these condensers that define the quality of the whiskey. If you have a normal shell and tube, then you have this huge copper contact area. Whereas when you have an old-fashioned, warm tub, then you have less, and it's really a lot different from the distillery character.
It's most of it's take the time with the contact of copper.
Mm-hmm.
It's all those. For me, the magic is in the copper.
Yeah,
it's not the shape. It's not a crack in something. It's the copper. Yes.
The shape does determine it a bit because...
Yes, of course. No, I mean the irregularities in shape. If you have a hole in it or cut it.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
So there are more there. So Benriach 12, Glendronach 12, 21, and the 10.
Okay, a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
So
where you get those glasses? Well, I designed them myself. This is my glass, and it was quite an effort to have a huge company with a long production facility running for my glass. Mm-hmm. So seeing it coming out with tens of thousands of glasses was such a wonderful feeling. And now we're starting to ship them outside Germany. The first country is Austria. And if you're a little bit more patient, then hopefully we'll ship it around the world, but it will take some time until we'll get all that red tape work sorted out with all the tariffs from Europe, the counter tariffs from the US, and so on.
Oh yeah, now we have to even pay tariffs as well. Now we have VAT, what do you call it, the tax on booze, and tariffs.
Yeah, so it's red tape work. You can't believe that.
Yeah, well, we'll sort it out. We're Germans. We can calculate.
Yeah, so I think we're through now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, do you have something else?
No.
So thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, then please feel free to share this video with your friends, and see you next time.